because it was expensive. And my dad wanted me to be good at math, and he didn't want me to have any distractions because I was awful at math. That's it. That's the video. But seriously though, like if you guys think there is a bad stigma or video gamers are looked at a certain way in this country negatively, I need you to try to imagine how bad it used to be in a country like Nigeria. Like growing up, the idea of a kid sitting at home playing video games, it was looked at as one of the most useless things you could be doing with your time. So yes, a big reason why I wasn't able to play video games growing up was because we couldn't afford the thing. They were too goddamn expensive. Consoles were too expensive. But it's not like if my parents really wanted to get me a console, they couldn't have. Like, we were not rich, but we were not so poor that if they really wanted to get me a console, they wouldn't have been able to do it. They could have done it. But it's a situation where my dad, my parents, they're trying to raise us a certain way. They're trying to raise us to love science, to love to read books, to love to be studious, to be very conscientious. And video games are the complete opposite of that. Like growing up, every single opportunity they stuck a book in our hands, you know, whether it's reading the Bible or reading textbooks or making sure that we read novels. It didn't matter what it was. They really wanted us to read. I mean, it's the same thing. We barely watched television. Just, it was all about reading. They wanted us to be educated. And the thought of their kids sitting down in front of a television playing a video game just does not sound like something that my parents wanted to spend their money on. If they were going to spend money on anything, it's something that to them was going to build up a future doctor or build up a future nurse or build up a future engineer or build up someone that was going to be educated, someone that was going to be able to find a really good job in Nigeria and make a lot of money for themselves and be successful. And it's very important to understand at that time, man, there was no internet. You know, the idea that you could make a living playing video games, the idea that video games could bring any sort of positivity measured, of course, in terms of success. It's like they're trying to raise you to be successful, to succeed, because it is extremely competitive, and the sort of jobs that you can get into are so limited. There's not a lot of opportunities. It's not like it is right now where making money and becoming rich and becoming wealthy and finding success it's the easiest it's ever been to find success. Now is the time to do it. But man, back then the path was just a few paths, man. It's like you go to school, you're gonna become a doctor. It's always the same thing. You're gonna become a doctor, you're gonna become a lawyer, you know, you're gonna become a nurse, you're gonna become an engineer, you're going to become a scientist of some sort, you're gonna become a banker. That was a big one growing up. You're gonna become a banker. And for all of these things, you had to go to school, man. There was no graduating high school and then not going to university. Like, that was not a thing. The idea that you could graduate or even not graduate high school, oh my God. Ho. Nope. Graduate high school. Next thing is you got to go to college, and getting into a college back home so freaking difficult. So just overall, the idea of playing video games just was not something that was even a possibility in my household, you know, growing up. Now, that's not to say that I wasn't able to play video games at all. Like I was able to play video games a little bit. For one, my uncle, my mom's brother, at one point in the village, he owned a barber shop, and integrated in the barbershop was also like an arcade, a small arcade. And I remember at the time he only had one game console. I believe it was the Sega Mega Drive. That's the console that he had, and he only had two video games. He had Mortal Kombat, the original Mortal Kombat. I forget what it's called. And then he also had a soccer game. And literally, kids would flood the whole entire place. They would pay him 10 naira, they would pay him 5 naira, they would pay him money, and they get to play the video game for a select amount of time. And of course, he would have his friends who would stand by the door and watch as the kids play, and he would set up a timer. Once your time is done, you either pay a little bit more to keep playing, or you got to get out and let someone else play. And because he was my uncle, of course, I got preferential treatment. So I was able to, come in anytime I go to the village. I was able to play a little bit, but still, I mean, it was the same thing. Even though he had the arcade, even though he owned it, even though I could have played video games all day long if I wanted. One, there was the issue of electricity. I mean, in Nigeria, you guys got to keep in mind, in Nigeria, it's not like it is here where there's always electricity. No, back home, when there's light, the electricity is used for important shit. And when there is no light and they run the generator, they're not running the generator so they can put on a video game for you to start playing. They're running the generator so they can use that to do important things like the fridge, to cook, and a bunch of other things. So even back then, my uncle still did not let me play video games. Like, he only let me play for like a minute or 2 minutes here and there. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but like 10 minutes, 20 minutes here and there, 30 minutes here and there. And then he would have me like get out and stop playing. So yeah, I definitely did play. And when I was in high school, there was also an arcade very close to the high school that I went to at the time, the military school that I went to at the time. And what I would do with my friends after school, rather than go home, we would actually leave school early and we would go to the arcade. We would pay the same exact way we'd pay money, and then we'd wait our turn because, I mean, the place was always packed. And it's so funny because in Nigeria, all these arcades, there's only one game that they always have, and it's a soccer game because that is the only game people want to play. They don't want to play Mario. They don't want to play all these other weird games. All people want to play is soccer because that is the sport. That's the sport in Nigeria. So all you could play was soccer. I did not like the soccer games, man. Like, I wanted to play something more interesting than that. But I would go with my friends. We would pay money. We would take turns playing soccer. We would play for like an hour or until our money runs out, and then we got to get out of there. I do remember the most impressive game I ever played back home in Nigeria was actually the very first God of War. And this was shortly before I left the country. This was I was 16 at the time, almost like about 2 months before I left Enugu State to go to Lagos, and then from Lagos, of course, to start coming here. I got the opportunity to play the very first God of War on the PlayStation 2. It was either PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 3, and it was the PlayStation 2. I was blown away. I could not believe what the hell I was playing. I was like, what the hell is this? And I remember after moving here, when we first moved here, and I was finally able to make a little bit of money working. Of course, the first thing I did was I bought a video game console. The first game console I ever owned that was mine, I bought it myself, and I bought it in this country, and that was a PlayStation 3. That is the first game console I ever owned. Bought it myself. First game I ever purchased was God of War, and that is how, of course, I was able to get into the UFC games. Got on YouTube, found MMA game. I was like, he's playing this game called UFC Undisputed 3. This looks interesting. Of course, we pick up UFC Undisputed 3 at the time, and that's it, man. That's how we got into it. But I get this question all the time. Why is it that you say all the time that you did not play video games growing up? Because I didn't play video games growing up, man. I really did not play video games growing up. I didn't have the opportunity to. My parents did not want me spending time playing video games, and they were extremely expensive. Like, let's just be real. Those game consoles were very, very expensive. And the only people, like, I remember the first time I saw someone with a PSP, a portable PlayStation. I remember the first time I saw that. I was at a supermarket. It was this rich kid. They owned the supermarket. And we would always go over there to buy groceries. And I remember this kid at the other side of the counter playing a soccer game on the PSP, and I was blown. I was like, oh my God, what can I do to get my hands on this? Like, at that time, I didn't even know what the hell it was. I didn't even know it was a thing. Because at that time, the only portable style game console that I had seen here and there was a Game Boy. And a Game Boy was nothing like the PSP. It was nothing like the PSP. So my first time seeing the PSP, seeing the graphics on the screen of this portable thing, and he's playing a song. Oh my god. Whew. Man. So yeah, man. It's crazy just how things have changed. Like now I can buy, whatever game console that I want to buy. I can purchase whatever game I want to purchase. Now that my parents know that I make a very good living doing this thing, it's like that is the beauty of the internet. The beauty of the internet is that you can turn a hobby into a legitimate career, into a business, into something that you can comfortably live on, you and your family, something that you can thrive on. And I couldn't be more grateful. I truly couldn't be. But I just decided to just hop on, talk about this briefly, just so you guys understand why I never got to play video games growing up. Because you guys ask me that question all the time. It's very simple. They were expensive, and my parents did not want me to play them because to them, it was a waste of time. And you know what, man? In a lot of ways, I'm very glad that I actually listened because I was a pretty goddamn good student growing up. And because of that, I was able to graduate high school at 15, like 14, 15. I graduated very early thanks to the upbringing, the way they brought us up. They made sure that we stayed in books. We stayed in books at all times. But man, that is it. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.